Taking your written exam can be one of the most stressful pieces of getting your private pilot's license. Today, I'm on my way to go and do just that. I want to tell you how I got to this point, as well as things that you should consider before you do it as well. Welcome to the channel, Brad Takes Flight. On this channel, I'm covering everything from my 0 hour all the way up through my MEI. Today's a big day for me. Got to take my private pilot's license exam, my written exam. So this isn't the check ride, and everybody will take this at different stages depending on where you're at. But I wanted to talk about materials I used to prepare, what I went through as far as the decision-making process to decide to sign up for my exam, and then actual exam day, what that experience is like and what you can expect. If you watch my other video for the exam prep, I've used several different test preps in order to prepare. The majority of this one though has been on Sporties. So Sporties has been pretty good. I won't get into all of my thoughts on their process because I did that in another video, but that's who I used. It's taken me, March 9th was the day that I got access to Sporties. On March 17th was the day that I decided that I was ready for my exam. Now, I had received my endorsement the day before. In order to be endorsed by Sporties, you'll actually have to make I think it's over an 80 on 2 practice exams for them to give you your endorsement. I made an 85, I think, on the first one and a 92 on the next one. And so within 2 practice exams that I needed to, they had given me the endorsement. However, I really wanted to see a higher kind of rate. And so I've really been fluctuating between about 88 and 97 now. Over those next couple of days, I was, in the 90s fairly consistently. And that's when I decided, okay, I'm ready to take my exam. Now I'm driving 2 hours away to a different testing center outside of my hometown because my hometown testing center is just absolutely slammed. I would much rather do that in an exam center that has a lot more availability than trying to set a very firm date, maybe way out ahead of time, that I don't know if I'm going to be prepared yet or not. This is my first time going through it, so I just don't know when I'm going to be prepared, and I don't want to put any undue pressure on myself to be prepared by a certain date, or I'm already prepared and now I have to stay prepared for even longer as I wait for that date to come around. Like I said, I'm also doing accelerated flight training, so when I'm ready to take an exam, I need to go ahead and take that exam so I can move on to the next one. So that's another big piece for me. As far as materials that I'm bringing with me, I brought my E6B calculator. I brought my endorsement because I don't know when I actually need to show my endorsement, but for the private pilot's instrument and your commercial written exams, you have to be endorsed in order to take them or at least receive credit for them. So I don't know at what point I will need this endorsement, but I went ahead and printed it off and brought it with me. I also brought a plotter. I brought a blank navigation log, some pins, as well as some blank paper. All of that I can take into the testing center with me, right? Other things that I brought with me, I'm planning on getting there about 25 minutes or so ahead of time, so that way I can sit in the car. I brought my PHAG, or the pilot's handbook of aeronautical knowledge, as well as my FAR AIM book, to be able to review a few materials before I go in that I know I'm still a little loose on, and just want to make sure that I have those things down before walking in the test center. If you haven't taken this exam or don't know the structure yet, for your private pilot's license, you're going to get 65 questions. 60 of those count. 5 of them are like throwaway questions, probably ones that they're experimenting with to just kind of test knowledge to see how they work. You're also all multiple choice on those questions, and you're only given 3 responses that you have to choose from. One thing that you may want to brush up on is just your test taking strategies before you get ready to take your final exam if you haven't done so. So just to give you an example of what that kind of looks like, it doesn't even really matter what the question is sometimes when you're looking at these test taking strategies. So because you've got 3 responses, you start eliminating one and you end up into a 50-50 kind of situation. But you can also do some other things to help yourself as well. So if the 3 responses that you have right, are your left aileron up, your right aileron down, or your right aileron up. From those responses, it doesn't really matter what the question is. If your right aileron is down, that means your left aileron is up, right? So now you have both of those choices. Well, neither one of those choices can be true, because if one of them's true, then the other one's true, right? So you can eliminate both of those, and now you know the answer is the right aileron is up, right? And it doesn't even matter what the question is. So those are test taking strategies. And if you haven't looked at those and you're not a good test taker, take some time to look through some of those things as well, to kind of help you in this process, especially with the amount of times that you're going to have to go through taking tests and testing materials. When I first started taking my tests, I was in the 60s and 70s as far as my scores, because I hadn't really watched all the materials. I was just going through trying to get a sense of the material and what the tests were going to feel like and what I was going to need to know. And so understanding test taking strategies is going to help you just as much as knowing the material when it comes to the exam itself. Now, I don't think test taking strategies is the only thing you should rely on. I think it's something that you should rely on exam day or when you're getting prepared, because it'll help you understand the right answer, and then going back and finding what the right answer is, why that's the right answer, right? So it's not just about getting the test right, because you have to do more than just get the test right. This needs to really be you getting a great foundational knowledge base as well, but understanding these things will help you the day of the test, getting prepped for the test, and will relieve some of that stress knowing that you have some other things that you can rely on outside of just this knowledge that you may have been cramming in. I told you guys that I got started on the 9th of March with my studying, and March 17th, I decided that I was ready. My study schedule was pretty intense. I would say I was studying probably 6 hours a day, and then doing other things around that. I'm a real estate agent, so for me, I've got a little bit more flexibility with my schedule and what I'm doing during the day, and when I'm doing certain things. I took some practice tests at night after I put my kids down, that kind of stuff. So, but it was pretty intensive as far as the schedule, and then just watching the videos and things like that as much as I could. One recommendation I would give people is, if you're one of the people like me who listens to things at 1.5 or 2 times speed, slow it down, right? Don't go more than 1.25, maybe 1.5 max when you're doing those materials, and really give yourself the opportunity during those pauses to repeat that material, to reinvest yourself in that, so you don't have to rewatch it. It's not just about hearing it. You really want to try and do the best you can at retaining that material. And that was one of the mistakes that I made, was just doing things like I normally do, just, for entertainment. And when I listen to audiobooks and things like that, it's always at those faster speeds. Slow it down. Really try and synthesize that information as you're getting it. And that's going to help you in your test prep and not having to go back and redo material again. And with Sporties, they weren't very good at, giving you the videos to go back and watch. They gave you an entire FAR AIM chapter, an entire PHAC chapter to go and read, instead of just that video to go back and watch. And for me, I'm much more of a visual person, so that would have been helpful. I'm about 30 minutes out right now from being at the testing center. I'm going to go ahead, listen to a few spots that I know that I've had some troubles with, to kind of go over that information, and I will catch you guys when we get to the testing center. Made it here. Now I'm going to take some time. The other 2 things that I brought with me that are really critical are some caffeine as well as some water, right? So I'm going to hydrate up, finish my caffeine, and kind of get myself prepped. I'm going to go through a couple of the things that I've already tagged, right? Come prepared, knowing that you're going to take a little bit of time here. Unless you're single with no pets, make sure you've got a little bit of time away to kind of finally, before you walk in, just review any of those nagging areas that you're a little worried about being short on. Take this time to kind of review those. I'm going to take that time now to go ahead, get myself finished, say a couple of affirmations, right? That just kind of helps me. Some deep breaths, go to your happy place, whatever it is. So that way, when you walk into the testing center, you're feeling 100% confident in your abilities and what you're about to go and do. So if you're headed into yours, good luck to you. Hope you're wishing good luck to me. Just wrapped up taking the exam. The exam itself only took me about 30 minutes or so to take. Again, it's 65 questions. They score 60 of those, and you have 3 multiple choice responses. So along with, I did not take in the navigation log. I think that it says there's some kind of flight planning, like a blank flight planner or something like that you can take in, but I guess not. But I was able to take in the E6B calculator, and I took in my plotter. And then when you come in, at least at my testing center, they gave me a large whiteboard with a grease pen and an eraser to be able to write on. They gave me a calculator. They also gave me a magnifying glass and like a piece of laminate, or not laminate, maybe acetate, for all you old school people who used to remember what a projector actually looked like, to kind of be able to write on top of basically a book that has all those figures in it that you would study. So it'll reference back to figure 26 and you turn to the page to find that figure. So those were all the materials I was given. It was a quiet room, really nice, I would say, environment on a pretty large monitor screen as well. You sit down, you have to kind of agree to a couple of, statements saying that you are who you say you are, that kind of stuff. They run you through a quick little practice test that, ask you like how many days are in a year and what's the capital of the US, just simple stuff, right? So you can kind of get acquainted with the actual system itself of taking the test. You exit out of that, and then you begin your actual exam. Again, that only took me about 30 minutes to go through the 65 questions. I did see a number of questions in the exam that I didn't really remember seeing in the test bank of things that I took. So that was a little bit unnerving, but like once you're in the situation, you just have to, go for it. So I ended up getting an 83, which is a pass, but that is far below what I was hoping to get. I really wanted to get a 90 or better. I've got 10 standards that are listed here. So the nice piece about all of this is you do kind of get so you get your score and you get an exam. Like all of these are the different codes for the Airman's certification standards that I need to go back and review. So I've got to hold on to this report. And when I get to school, I think with my CFI, I'm going to have to go through all the things that I kind of missed. So it's kind of twofold. One, from what I've heard, anything lower than a 90, you should just expect a little bit more questions and things like that when you're doing your oral exam, which will be fine, I think, because you've got, access to other materials and things like that when you're doing your oral exam and have more time to prep. And I'll actually have gone through all of my other tests, right? So that'll be helpful, as well as now it's going to take a little bit more time though to review this, and I'm going to have to review this with a CFI and go through all these things. So the lower your score, even though it's a pass, and I'm grateful that I passed, I just was hoping to do a bit better. I may also wait until I get some consistently higher scores of like no 80s at all before maybe doing the next one. Anybody has some tips on what to do to kind of bring up the scores for the next ones, would love to hear it. So with the check-in process, you want to make sure, I don't think I mentioned my ID, but have your photo ID. They did take my endorsement and scan that. into the system. So do make sure that you bring your endorsement with you as well. And then they gave me a locker to lock away all of my other, materials and things like that, like my phone and my smartwatch and all of that stuff. Put all of that into a locker and just had my E6B calculator as well as my plotter. And then they gave me all those other materials that I had mentioned earlier. Even though I didn't necessarily get the score that I wanted, I did pass today, and it was an experience on to the right direction, I think. I'm gonna go out and grab myself a burger. That doesn't really sound maybe like much of a celebration for some people, but I'm on a diet, so going out and grabbing a burger and appreciating the fact that I did pass my first test, that I've gotten through this first hurdle, even though it wasn't at the level that I wanted to. I think you still, I do hold myself to a pretty high standard, and so I need to at least be happy with the fact that I did pass today. So I'm going to try and treat myself and enjoy the small victory, and continue to move forward. For anybody else who's looking at taking the test or getting prepped for the test, I would say make sure that you're consistently getting probably 10 points higher than what you want on some of the practice tests, at least in Sporties, if you're using Sporties. So, and Shepherd Air doesn't have one, and so if you're using King Air or maybe Pilot Institute or something like that, another one of these, making sure that you get those, I think, is important. So, and just making sure that you're consistently higher than maybe what you want to be. So I will get back to the house after I have my burger and celebrate. I'm also going to check out the airman certification standards that are listed here to see kind of where I got tripped up and provide that to you guys when I get to the house. So if you're watching this and prep for yours, best of luck to you. I'm hoping nothing but, hundreds for everybody. So yes, you're seeing things right. I did get my hair cut, but I wanted to leave you guys with one final thought on just the difference between the 83 that I got and the 90 that I wanted. Really comes down to 4 questions. And I was doing a little bit of self-reflection, trying to think about the questions that I was struggling with, or maybe that I missed. And then I did a little bit of poking around, and I'm pretty sure I missed 3 different questions on V speeds. So I confused VX and VY. Of course, there were 2 different questions about, time versus altitude, which one is best. And I think I confused those, as well as VSO. I had looked at so many other ones, but VSO was just one that was not coming to mind. And so I missed that one as well. And then there was another question that was asking, I believe, for density altitude, and I gave them pressure altitude, probably because I was just too busy looking to go to the next question instead of really looking at my calculator. Honestly, that's probably the real reason, is I just didn't use my E6B calculator enough to really remember what outputs I was getting. So I got both density altitude and pressure altitude when I inputted the information in, and so it was asking for density. Pretty sure that I put in pressure altitude, and so that's the difference, right? Those 4 questions right there is the difference between what I got and what I wanted to get. However, it was a really good learning experience, I think, for me. And if I can encourage all of you to do anything, it is to take some time to maybe do some more kind of quick notes, right? I have to be honest, I've been leaning mostly into videos and didn't really have any kind of flashcard keys or just really quick written down, the V speeds, for example, would have been something really easy for me to have just written down out some lists. The few things that I did write down, like no's and ands for magnetic compass, little memory aids of things like that, are questions that I know I got right, because I took a little bit extra time to write those things out, and I probably should have done more of that. So if you're getting prepped, go back through, write yourself up some quick memory aids, look some stuff up. Don't just depend on maybe the one ground school that you're at or going to. If it's mostly online or videos like what I did, and you don't have an actual person to ask a lot of these questions to, take the time, write it out a little bit more. So that way, if I would have reviewed my V speeds before I went in, if I would have used my calculator a little bit more before going in, I think that would have been the difference. However, I am going to be happy that I did get a pass. Pass is always better than fail. So I am happy about that. I wish you guys all the best luck as you go to take your exams. And once you're done with your exams and you get back up in the air, remember one important thing when you're coming back down: keep the grass off your wingtips, aviators.